Hey guys, welcome on in. It's another Photoshop tutorial with Mr. Kern. Today what we're going to be doing is working on a double exposure portrait. Basically, double exposure means bringing two photos and kind of blending them together. And what we're going to do is we're going to use double portraits to create a style, or double exposure to create a stylized portrait. So at this point in time, hopefully you've already taken a photo of yourself. If you haven't, I recommend taking a shot from profile, so from the side, or a 3/4 shot where you kind of turned but you're still facing right there. I wouldn't recommend taking it straight on. And the reason why that is, it'll work just fine, but it leaves you without a lot of options, and you'll see what that means a little bit later on. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and pull up my portrait. I'm going to hit open here, open. And I'm going to use this guy right here. You can see I took a couple. And obviously taking a lot of photos, give yourself some options. So I'm going to stick with this guy here, okay? Now, you can see I took a photo with a black backdrop here. You don't have to do that. In fact, we're going to remove the background altogether. And so wherever you're at, you don't even need a fancy background or anything. As you can see, it looks, mine's pretty wrinkled there. But we're going to be removing it anyway, so it doesn't really matter. So with your picture up, okay, what we're going to do is we are going to use our quick selection tool. And it's the fourth tool down the left-hand side. If we right-click there, bum, bum, bum. I'm going to move my face for a second so you can see what I'm looking at. Right-click and quick selection tool, okay. Again, like a couple of my other tutorials, like I've said, quick selection tool is what I use the absolute most. And what I like to do every single time that I use it, I'm going to hit select subject up top. I'm going to let Photoshop do the work for me. So here we go. And it's thinking about it. Tick, 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 tick. And it's done a pretty good job. It's found the outline here. I actually like that outline quite a bit. I think that'll work. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to do is we're not going to cut it just yet, okay? We're going to come up here to the select and mask button, okay? Now, I recommend using select and mask, especially when you're using photos of people. The reason why that is around the hair. You can see if I make a cut here, and I'm actually going to change this view. I'm going to change it to this overlay view. And you can see kind of on this hair, like you get kind of a fuzzy look to it. It's a little bit odd. And sometimes it'll cut it straight off. It'll be like, this is your hard edge hair. And none of us have hair like action figures. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here. We can do this a couple different ways. The first one is I would recommend hitting this smart radius button over here on the right hand side. And when we hit this, we can actually move this, and you can see the radius of your outline moving slightly, okay? And I'm here in my computer chugging along, so it's not going to do a whole lot of good here. But generally what that does is it just moves that edge a little bit, so it gives you some room to work on it. Additionally, what you could do is down here at the very bottom where it says shift edge, you can take a look and see what that looks like too. Okay, and you can see the problem is that's doing it to the whole thing, and I'm going to back on out so you can see what that looks like. There we go. And we'll zoom back in down here. There we go. So Smart Radius does a good job at finding those edges. And so it keeps what it should, and then allows a little bit of wiggle room up here with the hair, okay? Now the other way to fix up your hair, let's say it's missing a huge chunk of your hair, okay? It does that sometimes, especially if you have long hair. It likes to get rid of it, likes to give you a haircut. And if you're having that problem, and again, also if you're photoshopping fingers, it hates fingers. But I would recommend using this refined edge brush here, okay? And what we can do is I'm going to hold down Alt because I'm going to bring stuff back. And you can just kind of click and clean up any edges here, okay? That's awful right there. That's not what I'm looking for. Okay. You can see there's a weird edge right here. I'm gonna click and drag over that. And poof, it's bringing hair back. Okay. It's got a little funky edge to it. We're gonna clean that up here in just a moment. Okay, but I just recommend playing around with it until you get it just right. Again, always smaller brushes are helpful. There we go. I'm gonna kind of stick with this. I kind of like where I'm at. This front floop-de-doop isn't quite working for me. Okay. Not quite what I'm going for. Okay. I'm going to bring that back. All right, and my edge, that's gonna work, okay? And you can see I got the hard edge here. That'll work for me. You can also clean up any other edges where there might be hair, so you don't get that straight line. You see that weird straight line that's happening there? You just run this over it, like it gives it kind of some fuzziness. There we go. Also, you could smooth things out. You can feather things. Again, feathering just adds a little bit of fuzziness to the outside. I wouldn't recommend doing a lot of feathering on it because we do kind of want that hard edge. It's a good look. But once you're all done, we're going to hit output settings. Okay. We're going to click decontaminate colors. Okay. And then you see output 2, it says new layer with layer mask. Once you like what you like, we're gonna hit OK right there. And there is my portrait, okay? And you can see you have a background. You have your original right here. You have the new one right there. And we're gonna add in one extra layer now. So on the bottom right, where we have this little square with a plus, we're going to click that. And this new layer, I'm going to click and I'm going to drag this between layer 1 copy and layer 1. And this one right here, I'm going to double click the words here on the layer 2. I'm going to call it BG for background. Okay. The one that has my face with the mask, I'm going to double click that guy and I'm going to call that one model, because today I am a model. Okay. All right, next thing we're going to put in our background. Okay. So on our background, we're going to click on our background layer and we're going to go over here to our tools and we are going to find our paint bucket tool. You may find it with that gradient tool on top of it, but if you right click it, again, there's your paint bucket tool. And I'm going to choose the color white as my foreground color. So what I can do is I can just click that black and white guy, boom, and then I can hit this little switcher or hit X on my keyboard, and that'll give me white as my foreground color. Okay. Now, again, make sure that you're clicked on your background layer. I'm going to click, and that's going to throw white there as my background. Okay. Looks pretty good. So far, so good. All right. Now, the next thing that we're going to do is at this point in time, we've talked about what we need for our project, and we're going to find something to stack on top of this, something that's going to be merging with our portrait. Okay. For myself, what I've done is I'm going to go File, Place Embedded, because I want to bring in another photo into this composition. I'm going to move my face again. Here we go. And I'm going to grab one of these photos that I downloaded. In fact, actually, I'll just show you quickly how I went about finding this photo. So I'm going to bring in my Google Chrome window. My favorite place to find source photos for stuff like this, unsplash.com. Okay. So unsplash.com, anything that you're looking for. We've used this a couple times in class. These are usable images that were taken by photographers who do terrific work. I mean, they are professional photographers, a lot of them. So what you can do, you can search here. I like to look up, I like tree line, makes for interesting photos. And you can see there's a lot of cool ones here. And I think the one that I like the most, I like this one here, okay? So Natish Meena, thank you so much. When you download a photo here, it says, hey, say thanks to this person. And so you can copy their link, or you can put that into your clipboard and put that into your project and say, just give them credit for their amazing photo that they're allowing you to use for this project. Because it is a school project, as long as you don't sell it, you're in good shape. But that's the photo that I'm going to end up using for this. So, and here it is. Thank you so much. And you can see that it showed up right here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to double click the words here, and I'm going to call this one, let's go FG for foreground. Okay. That'll work for me. Okay. What I'm going to do is yeah, that's fine. We'll rasterize it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hit Control T, and I'm going to move this so it covers my face completely. Okay. And again, if you did pick the photo that wasn't quite big enough, please use Unsplash, because all the ones on Unsplash are high quality images, have a lot of pixels. It's going to work better for you. Don't find something random that you found on Google that has 200 by 150 pixels. Like, that's going to look like junk by the time we're done with this. But you want it big enough, and you want to cover your face with it. Okay, I recommend flipping it on its side, and you'll see why here in just a moment. Okay, what I can do is I can turn down the opacity if I wanted to, and I want to try and line it up where it would look kind of neat on my hair. Okay, kind of like that look. I know I got a little bit of an overhang here. I'll clean that up here in just a moment, but I think that'll be a good look, and you'll see why here in just a moment. Okay, I'm gonna turn the opacity back up 100%. And what we could do at this point is we could hit this little bar right here. Now this bar, these are our blending layers. So this allows it to blend in with the layer directly behind it, which is our model. So I would recommend clicking that, and we can click screen, and I'll stack them on top of one another. You can kind of see what we're going for here. Okay. Now you see the river here is washing out my face. We're going to clean that up here in just a moment. But just try and find where it would look good. I'm going to hit enter so my pixels snap back. It's a pretty cool look. Okay. Also, what you could do at this point in time is you could go to your adjustment layers and slap in some black and white. If you wanted to, you just make the background black and white so your face isn't. So you can add a clipping layer there, or you can just leave it as is. I think the black and white gives it a good touch. I'm going to go back to my move tool, and I'm going to move around my foreground layer a little bit more. Just get it exactly where I want it. Actually, I want to make sure I'm on my face still. What I'm looking at is right here on the back of my head. Okay, and I can go back to Control T, or rotate it a little bit. Oh, that's it, guys. That's the one. Maybe a little bit more rotation, bring it back. 100%, that's it. I'm gonna hit enter, I'm gonna lock it into place. There we go, okay? Now, we can go back to our foreground layer. Okay, make sure you clicked on your foreground. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add a mask to it, okay? And you can see the little square with the circle in the middle. We're gonna add a layer mask. And your layer mask is white, okay? Now, what we've learned about layer masks is that you can paint black on a layer mask to make sure that it hides that part of your photo, okay? This is where things are gonna start coming together. So I'm gonna choose my brush tool. With my brush tool, I'm going to give myself a brush with low hardness. So you want a soft brush. I don't quite want it that big. And the most important part of this, okay, is this opacity meter up here for your opacity for your brush. I'm going to turn that down a lot, okay? I'm going to go down to like 20% on this. And honestly, I may make it even lower here in just a moment. I'm actually going to make my brush bigger. I think a bigger brush will work, okay? So currently brush size around 800, opacity about 20%. And I want black as my foreground color, okay? So with black as my foreground color, what I can do is I can just click and swipe through my face, making my face more visible. Or what I'm actually doing is I'm hiding the forest photo. Okay, so I'm going to clean that up, making that face more visible, and I'm going to clean up, I'm basically going to clean up that whole river. I don't necessarily want that. I want the tree line. Okay. And if you want to, I can see this line here of the shore. I'm going to give myself a little bit harder brush, or I'm sorry, a more solid brush so I can get rid of that. I don't want that line. Okay. There we go. I think that's a pretty good look. And if I wanted to, again, I can hide my black and white layer, see what that looks like. I can add a clipping mask to that black and white layer to see if it just the trees themselves is black and white, if that works better. I don't think it does. I like it all black and white. But you can make those choices, okay? Again, with black and white, you can change the white levels of each aspect of your photo. So with my black and white, I'm going to make some adjustments here. It's a heck of a look. I'm going to bring down the darkness of my shirt. And that's not really going to change a whole lot. I think that'll work. So there you go. That's a good look. If I wanted to, I could then go back to my my model layer, my layer mask on my model layer. Again, click that. I can paint some black on that to hide me a little bit more. Now, because you're blending them, because you're using that blending mode, you want to be a little bit careful with what you're hiding because they are blended together. So what it's doing is it's basically cutting the tree line where your model's cut to. Okay. So be a little bit careful about what you're cutting out of there. If you need to bring things back, again, hold down, hit X to use white and bring back things. I'm gonna bring back some of those trees. But just be careful with it. It's a good look. I like it. Clean up that, flip it back, hide that edge. That's a winner, guys. So there you go. There's my double exposure photo. Fairly simple once you have all the pieces ready to go. I'll have some of these backgrounds available to you, but again, Unsplash is the way to go. Thank you again to my photographer for having that available for us to use. But it's a good look. So hopefully yours turn out well. Again, you can play around with black and white and colors as is, but that's what we're going for. That's the end result, the double exposure portrait, done here in about 15 minutes. So with that being said, guys, thanks for sticking around, and we'll see you next time.